Michael.
Good morning, Rob.
Wonderful to see you here.
Always good to be here.
Always a good day when you're in the studio with us.
You went through your Rolodex and you couldn't find anybody else, so you asked me.
Actually, I didn't go through. You were just standing there. I said, hey, you want to co-host on Thursday? Harvey can't make it.
Okay.
And you said yes, so that qualified you.
Glad I made first billing hood.
Also, New York Times best-selling author John Gilstrap.
Good morning.
Who on June the 13th is appearing at Four Seasons Books in Shepherdstown.
That's right, with you.
With me. I'll be there. Are you doing any other appearances before that or after that?
There will be some after that, but not before. I have a...
You got stuff to do.
I have a thing, yeah.
You know a guy. Yeah. Let's see, as we welcome in our guest in this half hour, we have two, one via telephone, one in studio, Jason Barrett, Senate Finance Chair, JB.
Good morning, guys. And I want to know, why are you going to be at his book signing? What?
I was asked by Mr. Gilstrap to help facilitate the evening.
Rob has thousands of fans.
It's in conversation.
Oh, I thought he was like going to carry the books over to the table for you to sign.
No.
He's my back.
It's an interview format.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, I don't usually attend by invitation Mr. Gilstrap's book signing, but in this one he said, "Hey, I'm doing a thing, and can you help me do it?"
And there's free booze.
Free booze and a microphone. You were in.
He's kind of like
Kind
Jason
of
Barrett.
hard to argue with that.
Jason Barrett is what you said. That's awesome. How's the family?
Everybody's doing well.
Good to hear.
Yeah. Berkeley turned 3 in April, and Vandalia turns 1 in 11 days.
How has being a father of 2 changed your life?
It's awesome. You should ask Summer how being a mother of 3 is. But
yeah, all wives are.
I was just going to beat her to the punch because I know she's probably listening. So it's really well. It's the best experience ever, as Rob, as you certainly know. So.
Indeed, I told you you would be a good father someday.
Well, thank you.
You didn't believe me at the time.
Well, probably when you said it wasn't true, or it wouldn't have been true.
When I said it 10 years ago, you were hoping it wasn't true that weekend, I think is what you mean.
No, now you're getting carried away.
Maybe a little bit. So first and foremost, who's going to be the Steelers quarterback this fall? If you had to bet, not that you do, but if you had to.
If I have to bet, it's probably Aaron Rodgers. My choice is Will Howard, just to see what he has. And
I'm going with the draft pick.
At 41 or 42 years old, you know what Aaron Rodgers is. You might go 9-8, you might go 10-7. You get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. We've done that enough times. With Mason Rudolph, you're probably at 8-9, 7-10. But with Will Howard, who knows what it is? Maybe he has all the talents that some people think he does, and they've gotten a steal in the 6th round, or maybe they go 2-15 and get a top draft pick. So
Hornby's laughing over there.
I just laugh at Steelers fans. You guys are
Any
hardcore. Steelers fans are some of the hardcore fans but they're always optimistic. I think this is the first year you haven't said that you're going to win the Super Bowl.
It's the first time in my life I can remember saying that. That's how bad I think this roster is at the moment.
I think the roster's actually not bad.
Well, but if you don't have a quarterback.
They're missing a second wide receiver, and right now no one knows who the quarterback is. But I like what they've done along the lines. I like the running back that they took. I like the trade for DK Metcalf, and I especially like the way they've been building the defense up front.
Well, that defense is, when you saw Derrick Henry just run over top of them.
That's why they picked 2 defensive linemen high.
Well, but they're improving at the moment, so we'll see what happens.
Via telephone, Senator Ben Queen, the 12th out of Harrison. And Mr. Barrett, you're familiar with Mr. Queen as well?
Oh, yeah. Ben is I served in the House with Ben for a number of years, and he and I were both elected to the Senate at the same year, 2022, and served on the Finance Committee with Ben. He has been there all 3 years in the Senate. And this past year, obviously is my first year as a chair. Ben has really been a rock star on that committee, not only to the entire committee, but to me specifically. So happy to welcome in Ben to the show.
Ben, good morning. Thank you for joining us. You're on with Rob and John, and you probably have met Mike Hornby before, too.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm already jealous that I can't be in there in the studio, but maybe next time I'll make the drive over. I appreciate the invite. Thanks for having me.
This is the second best place to be. The best place to be is the Delta House in Charleston, where Hornby, Height, and I don't know how many other people passed through those doors during a 60-day session. Who else lived with you guys this year?
Gino, Jimmy, and Daryl lived there, and then Jonathan Kyle. So we had a whole bunch of us.
You had a house full.
Yeah.
They had 9 guys in 4 rooms. You do the math.
Senator Queen is also the Senate caucus chair. So
Yes, you guys have that in common.
Him and I got to meet once a week and talk about how we all get along.
Yeah. So, Senator Queen, how's it getting together with Delegate Hornby on a regular basis?
Awesome. I appreciate we have the same personality. I've been invited to the Delta House a couple times. I think it was probably because he needed something from the Senate, but all in all, we had a good time. Mike knows how to get his members to go along with the flow, I think. And I think I struggled with times on my side, but I think at the end of the day, we made some good progress in the Senate, and very happy to have worked with Mike. Obviously, I knew Mike before this year, but it's good to work with people that you have a good relationship with. So I was very grateful for that.
Ben, you're a fairly young guy, 30 years old as I understand it, but you've been elected now for 8 years. Is that correct?
This is my 9th session. Yep.
Yeah.
I went in being the young guy, and I'm still the young guy. So if anybody's listening who wants to run for office, I'm encouraging to pass the young baton on to someone else. I've had that weight on my shoulders long enough. No, in all seriousness, I've been honored to get elected. I ran for office to encourage my college roommates and college friends to stay here. And so far, I have 3 of those back home. I'm working on another 7 or so. So I feel like our progress is working. But ran for office at the age of 21. So I spent my 21st birthday in the House of Delegates. I don't know how many other 21-year-olds want to do that, but I was honored to. So still there, still representing North Central West Virginia. I feel like we got a very progressive, business progressive area, and I'm honored to do so.
Ben, did any of your time as a 21-year-old just elected to the House overlap with Sarah Blair's time in the House? She was elected at the age of 18.
It did, yes. She was actually one of the ones who encouraged me to run back in the day. We were students at WVU together. She was serving her first term, and I came in my freshman year. Was in her second term, so it was very encouraging to see so many young people at that time. We had, I think, 6 or 7 under the age of 30, and I wish she was still there, but obviously she did her time and moved on. But she's still in the Capitol, still has a great voice for young people, and it encourages me to see her continue to stay active in a political role and encouraging people to stay here, which is my whole goal, and I know it's hers too. Senator
Barrett told me that you were kind of like the vice chair of finance in terms of how much you work with finance. Give me an idea of some of the things that you guys worked on, and your thoughts on the state's finances overall.
So generally, my MO is listen before you say something stupid out loud, and I've enjoyed having kind of a back seat behind-the-scenes approach to the Senate Finance Committee. Obviously, Jason has opened the doors. Very grateful for that. We razz each other from time to time, but there's some serious moments too. Being able to hear from all the agencies and truly take your time and ask them what they need. Obviously, in a committee format, we're not going to hear everything that we want to hear for different political reasons, whether that's a new administration or too many vacancies, right? We don't want to shed out too many bad light on agencies in a committee hearing. I understand that, but I thought we did a lot of good work. I thought we passed a balanced budget. We have had 8 years of an administration that asked for a few things, and the previous administration under Governor Justice, I think, asked a couple things a year, but they were big lifts, right? And I think the new administration is trying to get a hold of the state's finances, trying to figure out what they want to prioritize. But the legislature has a role to fill. And the administration was on the job for 30 days. Several of us have been on the job for, I think Jason's nearly a decade, over a decade. So being able to try and fill the dots when we might have a budget shortfall according to Governor Morrissey. I think we did a good job of prioritizing our spends. Revenues continue to go up. That's something that I was pretty passionate about. We just got to get our state spending under control, and I think we've taken a pretty meaningful step in that direction. Jason has clearly opened the door for committee input, and I was grateful for that. And I take it pretty seriously that we have a $20 billion budget to pass when you add up all the federal money that we're in charge of. And I think that's a pretty serious role. I think Jason did a great job handling that. Obviously, we have some budget vetoes that I think we're still debating for special sessions and trying to figure out that funding priority. But all in all, I think we had a very good session financially wise. We kept our budgets under control and state spending. I think I've been elected now 9 years, and every time no one wants the state budget to grow and grow and grow. They want us to figure out what our priorities are. And obviously everybody comes to the legislature and asks for something. That's why I don't know if I would really care to be the Senate Finance Chair, because everybody has to come and say, Jason, or Senator Barrett, since they're nicer typically than I am, Senator Barrett, I need $500,000 to help kids in every single county. Well, you start adding those up, and those are budgets that he can't say yes to everybody, and that he's the bad guy most of the time. But he was able to really strike a fine balance of prioritizing stuff. I just met with some EMS guys for breakfast this morning. Obviously, they have a fine-tooth comb, but they understand that finances are tight. They want more money for EMS, but we're trying to find an answer. Just this morning, those are just conversations that are happening. But they paid full attention to Senate Finance, and they're very, very grateful that they get to hear their issues being discussed. And I think that's my number one priority, is try to be as transparent as possible. And Jason did a very good job of that.
John Gilstrap.
Yeah, kind of moving away from the finances. This is for both of you senators. What do you all think about the governor's decision to enforce his executive order on vaccinations over what the legislature decided on? His executive order says that the schools have to allow religious exemptions for vaccinations, even though the legislature said otherwise. What are y'all's thoughts?
Jason?
Well, I don't know that it is in contrast with what the legislature's done. I mean, the legislature attempted to pass a religious exemption for vaccinations, just couldn't get the votes at the end of the day, and the governor issued that executive order prior to the legislature doing anything. I mean, we've had this bill for a number of years. It passed last year, and the governor vetoed it, and so the previous governor. And I don't have any issue with the executive order. I think the governor is on some solid legal ground as to why he did it. I think the legislature made a mistake, and unfortunately the House couldn't get the bill passed. But I thought it was the Senate, our position as the bill went out. We knew that the House couldn't get the votes for that, but we sent them over something that I thought they could work with, and they could come back with what I thought to be a fair compromise. And unfortunately, they just couldn't get the votes to do that.
But the law never changed. So the existing law does not allow for religious exemptions.
Well, nor did it when he issued the executive order before the legislature started, the session started. And I think that he's cited some legal reasons as to why he thinks that, and he is a very competent attorney and served as the state's attorney for 12 years. And so I'll defer to his legal expertise on whether that executive order is legal or not.
Yeah, he cited the 2023 bill that we passed for religious freedom. That was his reasoning for the executive order. Then the Senate passed a bill, sent it over the House. Unfortunately, we just did not, as Jason said, we did not have the votes. We made some, I think there were some errors made on the House side that made that fail. And everybody knows where I'm at on that. I was a no vote on that, but that's just me.
But can you lean on when the 2023 bill didn't pass?
You did.
Well, it was not codified into law because it was vetoed.
He's referring to the religious freedom bill that we passed, and that's what he's citing for his executive order. He's not citing the vaccination bill that the House passed last session. We had a totally separate bill that was a religious freedom bill that he is citing in his executive order, which
from the justice term.
From the justice term. But that passed. It went through and it was all signed. It was a religious freedom bill where you can practice religion, as Jason said. When I read that in the executive order, in what he says, he does have a leg to stand on.
Does that religious freedom extend beyond vaccinations?
It extends beyond, yes. Yeah, and that's what he's referring to.
Any religion?
Yes.
You know you're opening up a door there, right?
Well, that was the bill that we passed.
Yeah.
It was the religious freedom act.
Can the governor do an executive order for locality pay?
The governor has a lot of power. I believe he could do a lot of things, yes.
Jason?
Well, so a lot of the agencies do have the ability. I mean, we appropriate money to agencies in their personal services line, which is money that they use to pay for salaries. And they have discretion as to how they do that. Now, the practice is, in a lot of cases, is the agencies just kind of have a blanketed, if you do job A, then you're paid salary B, and that's the way it works. But there are some agencies, and we've given them directive to do that, whether it's corrections or even in some highways situations, in some CPS where some locality pay is used. And frankly, I think these agencies have the ability to do that. I've asked the Supreme Court in the past if they had the authority to do it, and they do. They just don't do it, with some of their staffing. But really, when you look at teacher pay or state troopers or others, there are 3 or 4 school service personnel where their salaries are set in code. And so I would say that they probably don't have the authority to do that. Now, if they wanted to come in and do as long as the money was appropriated, the money was there to do some type of housing allowance, that may be okay. But as far as if the salary is set in code, I think the short answer is no. If the salary is not set in code and the money is appropriated, the money is there, I think the short answer is yes.
Yeah, so we have a form of locality pay within our health department with nurses, things like that. But I think Jason's absolutely right with that. Any
comments on your end, Senator Queen?
Just briefly, I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a sports photographer by trade. So my comments on the vaccine bill probably going to, not probably, it's going to get challenged in court. If I was in charge, and this is no shade towards the governor, I would just try to be adding that to the special session if he thinks vaccine exemptions are a number one priority, which I believe they are, trying to build some consensus in the off season and making sure that we have something going in for the August school year. The nice thing is we're out of school for 3 months. The problem is once you start getting into the first couple weeks of August, parents are going to have questions. I'm also in Jason's shoes. I have a 1-year-old now, so all my friends talk about raising kids, and this is a big issue for them, at least having the choice on vaccines. I have voted for the bill in the past. It has been a hard vote for me, but trying to figure out some consensus so that we can pass the bill in the next special session is what I would do, just to stay away from the legal court system. The bill might be challenged again anyway, just due to people not liking the bill. But I just think some progress in getting it codified makes our life a lot easier.
The Congress yesterday, working on the budget, has made some progress on it, which includes, I understand, $700 billion in Medicaid cuts. So this isn't law yet, but it is a step closer. At the state level, Mike, Jason, and Ben, I'm guessing you don't have a lot of specifics yet, but as you hear something like that, what are your thoughts as to the next steps you need to take at the state legislative level once this or some form of it happens?
Well, I mean, from my perspective, I think it's something that we have to monitor extremely closely and figure out where those cuts are. And, with the Medicaid expansion that happened a number of years ago, It's a lot of federal money that comes into the state. There's a huge match in that expansion. It's a 90-10 match. There's a lot of state dollars that go to that. And, in the past, the legislature had always said, we should just spend as much Medicaid money as we can because of the return and the match that we get from the federal government, where I think our focus in the past several years has really been more of how do we give these folks a hand up, and certainly those that are able-bodied should be working, and that's really, I think, from workforce development, for expanding job opportunities across our state. Really, I think we need to figure out a way to get people off Medicaid to be able to take care of themselves, and certainly Medicaid is there for a reason. There are a number of West Virginians that absolutely depend on it and need it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the folks that are able-bodied and should be working and drawing a salary and being able to fend for themselves. But I do think that it does appear that there are going to be some significant cuts on the federal level. West Virginia receives a lot of Medicaid dollars. We have to prioritize that and make sure that we're helping our most vulnerable and the people that absolutely need it.
Yesterday we discussed this, and our producer yesterday, Dylan Bishop, looked this up. Of the people who are able-bodied and can work, we're not talking about the disabled, the retired, or children who are on Medicaid. According to the Kaiser Foundation, 92% of them already work, which leaves 8% obviously who do not, which also tells me that there's not that giant level of fat or waste that's being thrown at people who are on Medicaid who aren't working but are able to, which presents a further problem when you're looking to figure out a way to deal with less money coming in. I don't know if you've seen those figures or not. I don't know how accurate they are. I just know that Dylan searched that yesterday and
that's
came
a
up
federal
with that
stat.
number. Yeah,
that's a federal stat. I would be interested to see how that in West Virginia, if that follows that same trend. I would ask the question that these folks that are working, are they working full-time jobs, or are they, what are their opportunities? Where are they working, and what kind of salaries are they making? And certainly, it's unfortunate that people still work 40 hours a week and don't make enough to not qualify for Medicaid. I mean, that's.
And I tracked that. Well, it was actually on Monday that happened, and I tracked that with Dylan. Absolutely right. That's what it said. What he left out was the part-time workers were included as employed, and then there's a significant double-digit percentage of people in school that is not part of the 8%. So if you add it all up, it's a significant number, and the 8% represents $108 billion of
around the country.
Yeah. So do the math. $108 billion, 8%. So
That's about a seventh of the 700
right.
billion. So, Ben, I've got about 2 minutes left. Final thought from you, sir.
I think that's a real. Our state's an outlier when it comes to workforce participation. I'm excited to hear just briefly off the cuff that a double-digit percentage are in school. I think that's something that the legislature has prioritized: workforce training, and I think we have great programs out there that the state helps fund. And we have to be able to give those resources to people. I don't think we do a very good job of explaining it sometimes, all those resources that are out there. So, just grateful for the opportunity to join you guys. Happy to come back and talk any issues in the future. Mike and Jason are good friends. They do great work. They take this job seriously. We stress at night over tough votes, and I think legislators who stress at night over making votes at the end of the day care a lot to make this place a better place to work, play, and live. So happy to join you. Thanks for the invitation this morning.
Ben, thank you. Appreciate your time this morning. Have a great day. Senator Ben Queen out of Harrison County. That's the 12th. As we welcome in the second hour of the show, Michael Hornby.
Always good to be here, Rob. Thank you.
He's the delegate. He's the House Caucus chairman. He's the owner of this business. He's just a darn good guy.
You're not getting a raise.
Sorry. Gave it a shot. Gave it a shot. New York Times best-selling author John Gilstrand.
Good morning.
Question on our Facebook comment section is Four Seasons what, John?
Oh, Four Seasons books. Friday, the 13th of June, I'll be there signing books. Rob is going to interview me. It's called In Conversation. It is located at 114 West German Street in Shepherdstown. It's main drag, right in the middle of everything. Restaurants are going to be open. It'll be a wonderful evening.
And that's, what, 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock.
7 to 7:30?
Yeah.
Ish?
Yeah.
All right.
Are you going to open a bookshop in Martinsburg? Do we have a bookshop in Martinsburg?
There's Bank Books. It's a used bookshop, which is wonderful, by the way. You can get, I don't know how many thousands of volumes they have in there, but it's really nice. But that's a used bookstore. There's Books A Million in, yeah. And that's it. Not a lot of bookstores here. But Four Seasons is an independent bookstore. It's a wonderful bookstore. It's a great bookstore for book lovers.
And we have a great library downtown that's going to be renovated, I believe.
Soon.
Does it open in downtown?
It will be soon, thanks to
We got an appropriation.
a nearly full appropriation. It was close. Governor Morrissey vetoed $500,000 of it, but $1 million of it survived, and will go to the Martinsburg Library for HVAC and such. And Senator Jason Barrett, our guest here, is hanging over for the second hour, also a part of that process. Jason is
The main part of that.
yeah, absolutely. And we talked to him about that during his regular Wednesday appearances on the show. Has the money been received by the library, and have they started the work?
It's actually in the fiscal year 26 budget, which doesn't take effect in July till July 1. And I think that's one of the things that Ben was alluding to when he was on the show with us, is kind of the transparency that I've kind of brought to the Finance Committee in the way that I put some of the things in the budget. And what I did at the beginning of the session was I gave essentially a sheet of paper to every member of the Finance Committee, and I asked them to write down 3 or 4 bills that were important to them, 3 or 4 different appropriations or things that they thought was important that the state fund. And I took those recommendations from that committee, and I would meet with people every day of just people that wanted to make an appointment. And I'm not talking about senators. I'm talking about people in the building, people with different organizations and groups that do good things to help people. And they would come in and just talk about things that were important to them, why they needed funding, what their program does. And then I would give them a sheet, and they would put in a specific request. And then, towards the end of the session, when I was putting the budget together, I would compare those of what were the asks of me in the committee or in my office when those folks came in, and what did the committee members ask for. And so really what I tried to do was go through what the committee members prioritized, put that in the budget. And my one ask, the one thing that I put in there, was $1.5 million for the Martinsburg Berkeley County Public Library. But when those people would come to me, those outside groups that would, whether it be for $3 million for the pregnancy centers or different organizations like that, when they came and asked for money, what I told them to do was go talk to the other senators on this committee, and I explained to them the process that I had implemented, that I wanted to, this was going to be driven by the members of the committee, because they sit through 30 days of budget hearings. They get long, drawn out, and from every agency. And I don't think it's fair or right to those committee members to have to sit through 30 days of budget hearing and then have one person put the budget together and then not have a say. So that's the one thing that, and when I was in the House, that's exactly the way it was, and it was incredibly frustrating for me. And I didn't want to do that to the members of that committee. So I allowed them really to kind of steer the ship as it related to some of those one-time expenses in the budget. Now, when we looked at funding agencies, from the requests of the governor, what they've spent in the past, what their reappropriated money was from the last year, that's where I took the lead as the chair and put the main part of that budget together.
So there are some who think that government should not fund HVAC systems for libraries or parks at all, and these are people that you served with, that you saw in Charleston on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say, is it possible to have state government not fund those things like parks or libraries and such, but is that an appropriate concern?
Well, I think that ultimately we have, as state government, has an obligation to provide certain things for the citizens. And when we look at, this is an unusual situation where the Martinsburg Library, goes out, they get a loan to be able to redo the HVAC system. They do that, they uncover all this asbestos, and now they have to go raise money. And they've done an excellent job of raising private funds. They've got money from local government. And they're still $1.5 million short. And the taxpayers of this area, who pay personal income tax, pay consumer sales tax to the state of West Virginia, now are without the main library in this county and the one located in downtown Martinsburg. And I thought it was appropriate for the state to step in and contribute the last dollars in. And, I remember when I was in the House before, I don't know if I was in the House or right before I came in, when the Morgan County Courthouse burned down. Well, the state stepped in and provided money for that. Just in this budget, the Clay County Courthouse needs significant upgrades. There is $1 million in our budget this year, up 2026, for the Clay County Courthouse. So there are, when the taxpayers of this area send money to the state, when there are needs or deficiencies here, I think it's appropriate. I think it is an appropriate use of state dollars to get the library that has been closed for months and is projected to be closed for a few more months, to get the necessary funds to make that work. And I know there's some of my colleagues that have voted against the budget, and it's ultimately going to be their job to go tell the voters why they voted against $100 million for foster care and adoptive services, why they voted against the $3 million for pregnancy centers, and all these great things that are in this budget. That's going to be their job to convince the voters why they thought that was a good idea. Mike
Hornby, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we have a role as government to provide services, I think, and people want services. I mean, I know the forefathers didn't have roads and hospitals and things like that, but we do. So we need to provide funds for that. I was happy to vote for the budget. I thought there was a good compromise between the House and the Senate. I know the governor vetoed some line items, and that's totally his prerogative, so I get it. But I thought we did some really good things this session, and I think, like the library, I think that's money well spent.
And I think it's important to note, as conservative as our governor is, and he is, and I had a really great opportunity to work with him very closely this session. We have a great working relationship. When you look at our budget that we sent to the governor spent $38 million less than the budget he sent to us. And then he vetoed another $8 million out of that. So we really spent $46 million less than the budget that was given to us on the first day of session or during the State of the State address. So, I think for, some of the folks that claim to be conservative, when they look at a budget like that has really about 1.6% in growth from the previous year that doesn't match our natural growth, I think is a very conservative budget, and it boggles my mind how anyone that could vote against this budget. I thought, and I'm not saying that because I was a leader in putting it together, but we gave a lot of deference to the governor in this budget. We worked with his agencies very closely, and for folks to vote against it, I struggle to understand.
The Eastern Regional Jail gates. So 4 months ago, I think it was, I got a text from at least one person explaining the situation that was there. Apparently a contractor hit the gate, damaged it, broke it, and it's taken forever to fix it and get it replaced. So they've had guards there instead. I brought this to your attention back, I don't know, maybe January, I think it is.
It was during session, so it was February or March.
February, March. And you were providing me with regular updates on what was going on. What was the complication in getting it repaired, and how close is it to being replaced?
Well, the gate was hit by a waste hauler, damaged the gate I think it was on October 30th or October 31st of 2024. At that point, a contractor was called to repair that. That particular gate was not available. Obviously, the insurance company of the waste hauler had to go through their process to evaluate it, to issue the $141,000 check that it's going to take to replace that. So since then, that check has been delivered. The company that's out there to order the gate and have it manufactured is being manufactured. Yesterday is my understanding that a lot of the electrical lines were run for that. So it seems like it's very imminent that it will be repaired or replaced, I should say, very, very soon. But it's just, when you're dealing with, a third party who hit the gate, then you have to deal with their insurance company, and now the gate that was there is no longer available, and they have to manufacture it. And so the shorter answer is it's taken longer than it should, but there are a lot of factors as to why it took so long. But I've been assured by the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security that they are on top of it. He sent me an entire detailed timeline, so they're on top of it, and it will be replaced very, very soon.
Any taxpayer dollars involved in replacing that gate?
Not to my knowledge, and nothing that the Secretary has told me has indicated that there are any taxpayer dollars. I didn't ask that specific question. That's why I have a little hesitation in saying no. But again, that check for that gate was in the excess of $141,000. So it makes sense to me that would cover the entire cost of the gate, I would hope.
Mr. Gilstrap.
It ought to.
You would think.
$141,000.
Should be
my
the gate
goodness.
business.
I want to go back to the budget. I understand why people get nervous about what's included in the budget. A library is certainly important to me. Other things are less important to me. If the state is building a baseball stadium, that I would care less about that than something like a library. So these are the decisions. I think that's why people get upset. And having come from Northern Virginia just recently, where they have these runaway everything, not only do they spend a lot of taxpayer money, but it's got to be the shiniest and the best and the biggest and all of that. So I know that's not what's happening with the budget here, but I certainly understand why people get a little bit nervous about the new opportunity. I heard in the I guess it's in the news. I heard Eddie Gokenauer or maybe it was Steve Catlett who was saying that we can charge a maximum of $11,000 per house with the new impact fee bill that's coming up. And I'm thinking, of course we're going to charge $11,000 per house because we can charge $11,000 per house. And then that's however many houses are built. Now we've got all this money coming in and we're going to build new stuff with it on the burden of the taxpayer. So there's a question in here somewhere, I'm not sure, but there's...
Sound more like a rambling, Mike. What did you think?
So do you feel that pressure as a Republican and working in a conservative administration? Are you aware that every dollar that's being spent is coming from a taxpayer's pocket, and that somebody's going to be upset that it's not their priority?
Well, absolutely, and that's why I have to say no a lot, and I can assure you that I said no to people a lot more than I said yes. And the times that I did say yes, it was driven by other senators on the Finance Committee, and we vetted those expenditures very closely. Both staff and I did that. But I also made sure that when we were doing these expenditures that they were one-time expenditures and they weren't base building. And so that's really what I think we had just a couple of bills. One was the mapping bill, and actually that's not base building. That's only a $3.1 million one-time expense for school mapping. So there are very, very few bills that passed this year and things that were put in the budget that were base building moving forward. And I think that's really the key. And in the past, what we've always done with the previous administration is anytime that there were one-time expenses, we would typically put that in the surplus section of the budget or run a supplemental appropriation. Because we were using some of the 25 unappropriated dollars to balance the budget of 26, we didn't run the supplementals. The governor, I think, made it very clear that he didn't want the surplus section of the budget to be overused, and so that's why I put one-time expenditures in the general revenue section of the budget, which is really, I think, what the governor wanted to do. And then, again, vetting these one-time expenditures to be mindful of taxpayer money.
Mr. Hornby.
Yeah, I think this is the first I've heard of Jason talking about asking this committee to go through that. I mean, if the House did that, we'd be overjoyed. It'd be 25 people that would just be jumping from the rafters.
Say yes. I didn't always say yes to them, but
right.
But I did. I try to give every member of that committee something that.
And I think, to John's point, I think the goal of the governor, the House, and the Senate, long term, is to get rid of personal income tax, and I think that's what we're all trying to work towards. There is always going to be a budget. There's always going to be spending by government. But if we can get rid of personal income tax, that's the goal here. And that's where the people come in.
What is, at this time, Jason, the total amount of personal income tax collected in West Virginia?
It's right around $2 billion, I think. It's that number was really fresh in my mind until we started slashing personal income tax. So cutting it 27.25%. I think it's in about the $2 billion range.
About two. So $2 billion is what you're looking to make up between growth in revenues plus this data center bill and bringing in additional tax revenue that way.
And that's 10 years down the line, this data center thing. That could be years from now.
Yeah,
but $2 billion is the whole right now.
2.3 or 4 is the number that sticks in my mind. But totally eliminating the personal income tax is a very heavy lift, and there's a lot that has to happen to be able to do that. But to be able to cut the personal income tax by 27.25% the way we have, and still run these budget surpluses, at this point. I expect, and I know this changes every time I'm here, I say a different number because the numbers continue to come back extremely favorable, well above the estimates that we've projected. And, having a great month of April the way we did, I think we're going to have a very good month in May when it's all settled. Now, we haven't collected a lot yet, but there's some reasons for that. June is always a very good month. I mean, we're at $237 million surplus this year as of now. I'm not going to be surprised if there's not another $100 million added to that. I'm really not. And so, I know that there are a lot of folks that say, well, this is COVID money, this is all these things. No, it's not. We're running right now a $237 million budget surplus with no COVID money whatsoever, with cutting about $1 billion in state revenue through tax cuts, and we're still running these hundreds of millions of dollars in budget surpluses, and that's all because we have really held the line on increasing spending. And when we're increasing spending in 2026 by 1.6%, well, we know, or the historic data that shows the natural growth in our economy and our budget is about 3%, and when you're able to hold that budget increase low like that, that's why you're able to have these surpluses.
What is the future of PEIA? Ultimately privatization, or is it going to be the continuation of the 80-20, and as a result of that the state's going to pay more on the 80 and the recipient's going to pay more on the 20?
Well, there are a lot of folks that talk about privatization. I don't know of any private insurance company, and I'm happy to be corrected, where for the coverage that the employee receives and for the amount that the employee pays and the employer pays, that there is a better plan out there. That now you may have plans that have better coverage that have higher premium, and you may have plans out there that have a lower premium but worse coverage. And so privatization sounds great. I don't know that there is a plan out there, or there is a company out there that would take that on and have the 6% in administrative costs that PEIA has, where it would actually save money and provide the same or better coverage to our employees. And I'm not saying this to be difficult, but everybody says fix PEIA. Well, tell me what that means, because I think that means different things to different people. Does fixing it mean the premiums never go up? And if that's what it means to someone, that standard isn't applied to any other insurance company in the world. That how, with the cost of medical inflation and general inflation, how in the world can we expect to keep insurance premiums without going up, when no other insurance company, no private sector insurance company is able to do that? So,
especially when the premium is based on salary, and your salaries go up every year too. So we're the only public insurance that bases your premium on how much you make, not on the risk that you have.
Mm-hmm.
The total plan is based on risk, but the individual's premium is set based on their salary, which I think is an unfair, and it certainly doesn't encourage healthy behavior. When it, now there's certainly smoking is considered that, but nothing else is. You're all the other, when you go get a insurance policy, they ask you a bunch of personal questions about your height, your weight, all these different things. And that plays, you get, sometimes, you would get blood work drawn, and you would, figure out, what kind of risk you are. Your age is a factor of that. This policy is not like that. So, if somebody says fixing PIA means that to them, then I understand that, and I can get on board with that. But I would just like to know how people actually define fixing PIA, because holding it to a standard where the premium never increases is unrealistic.
Go ahead, John.
No, finish the PEIA.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned that salaries go up every year. There wasn't a raise given this year, but there's a step increase
For teachers, there's a
built
step
within
increase. That's correct.
teachers.
And I think it's roughly about $1,000. You're not good. I know there's several folks on the Board of Education that watch this show regularly. I'm staying to be corrected, but I think it's the $800 to $1,000 range, I believe, is what the annual step increase is.
Well,
It depends on where you're at. Yeah.
I just looked this up, and according no verification on this, there are 18,774 teachers in West Virginia. If we gave each of them a raise of $10,000 to bring it up to what the local, the other counties are, that's $187 million. Call it $188 million. If we can reliably count on these budget surpluses every year, they seem to come. We don't, we don't budget the surpluses, but they seem to come. I don't understand why we can't afford the $10,000 raise for teachers across the board. Locality pay is not going to fly because the other counties are going to want to have the same thing, right? So if we can rely, if these budget surpluses are always there, why don't we just count on them?
Well, I don't think it's safe to say that those budget surpluses are always going to be there. I mean, we're talking about
$200 million is always there.
Well, always for the past few years. Now, when you look at the historic data for the past 40 or 50 years, you're talking about a 3% budget, an annual 3% budget increase. That's the historic average. And when you get above and beyond that, and then you get into hard times that we had in 2013 and 2014, where we didn't meet any of our revenue projections, and we had to go in and we had to do mid-year budget cuts. When you do base building in a budget that exceeds that 3%, you are eventually, and you do that year after year after year, you are eventually going to get caught, and you're going to get caught when there's a downturn in the national or the global economy, when we're not seeing these surpluses, and not only that, we're not hitting our revenue estimates, and we've done all this base building. Then we got to go figure out a way to make cuts to the budget, and that's why you don't do it, because the historic data says your budget increases by 3% of the year. If you get above that, that's when you run the risk of not meeting your revenue estimates and not being able to fund the things the government should fund.
And that cost, John, you'd also have to include custodians, cafeteria workers, state employees.
Service personnel,
That doesn't
all
include-
the agencies.
That doesn't include benefits either.
Correct.
And their benefits are based on their salary, so all that starts going up.
Then-
it's not as easy as just saying
Remember,
that.
when you have to pay Social Security tax, and your employer pays that, matches that too.
Even if we gave, let's say, $15,000 to every state employee and said, "Hey, go find your insurance," for $15,000, they can't find the insurance that they have right now. This insurance is a Cadillac plan. Yes, the premiums have gone up, but that's because we stopped them for so long. And now you just can't find this insurance.
Governor
for that
Justice
money.
froze those premiums for 6 years.
years.
It was actually 11 or 12 years without an increase, and then it happened all at one time. But the 80-20 match, or the 80-20 split, is the law, and that's what we should follow.
Jason, thank you.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
See you next week, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. Just keep bringing them in until he gets tired of us.